Welcome to the NanoCap podcast. I'm your host, Will Turnlin, and I'm excited to have you join me on this journey through the world of NanoCap companies. For the past decade, I've talked to thousands of business owners across various industries. It's been an enlightening experience revealing the vast tapestries of entrepreneurship and innovation that thrives beneath the surface of mainstream media coverage. Each week, I will interview different leaders of NanoCap publicly traded companies to learn about their history, what they do now, and their future. As a reminder, none of this information is financial advice, and it is all for entertainment purposes only. Let's start this week's episode. Hi, everyone. This week, we have Vin Singh, the CEO and founder of Bullfrog AI, stock ticker BFRG. Bullfrog AI is a technology-enabled drug discovery company that uses AI to aid in advancing the next generation of life-saving medicine. Vin, thanks for coming on the podcast. I saw your background, had me looking into the university you went to where you got your master's, and a lot of cool entrepreneurs that came out of there. But tell me more about way back in like 1999, Maxite, and what was Maxite? How'd you get the idea? Go to market? Why'd you go public? Kind of like, tell me about that crazy 4 years or so.
Yeah, so before 99, I was brought in to a biotech company called Entremed, and they had this technology for loading things into cells as part of a cell therapy approach. And so I was brought in to manage this large, complicated project. And then, the main company, it's called Entremed. They were very focused on drugs for oncology. And after some time, we realized, this cell therapy, call it a project, which is actually a device, software, disposables, involved a lot of things that were very different from what the parent company was doing. And so we decided, I did along with the CEO of the parent company, that we should spin this out. So we spun it out. I became one of the co-founders of the company, and that's really it. So the company was completely focused on using something called flow electroporation. It's where you use electromagnetic fields basically to open holes in cells so that you can load genes, drugs, other materials into them for therapeutic applications. So it was kind of earlier days in cell therapy. Cell therapy's gone through several waves, since then, and continues to make really good progress. But that was the focus of Maxite, and then Maxite ultimately ended up going public. So they went public first on the London Exchange, then on NASDAQ with a $1.5 billion market cap. So it's exciting story for me to tell, because obviously, I was the founding engineer of the company, and really in the early days helped drive it, into the clinic and developing the technology. So,
And when did Maxite go public?
I believe around 2014 timeframe. So
Okay.
It was years later. Yeah, it was sometime later.
Okay, yeah, because I was trying to think of you going public during the time you were there during the 2001 stock market crash and everything. That would have been craziness. So no, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. That tracks.
Yeah.
And so then in the meantime, between that and Bullfrog AI, you've been kind of consulting, working on different things, helping out different companies and such. What about Bullfrog AI got your attention? You must have seen a million different pitches for biotech companies, or as you kind of describe it, you're more tech bio. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, the trigger for me was I was working for Thermo Fisher Scientific. I was leading their global cell therapy strategy. And during my time there, we were supporting a company that was in a phase 3 clinical trial. It was an oncology indication, and everything looked so promising, right? Their readouts were positive. They said, "Oh yeah, we're going to win this." And for us, from my position and Thermo Fisher, it was important because if they did get a win and got FDA approval, there was going to be a lot of business for Thermo Fisher. So anyway, it was a big shock when it turned out that they failed the trial. And I said, like, how did that happen? I mean, you got through phase 2, so presumably you knew what patients would respond to your therapy. And then phase 3 looked so good, right? Interim results were looking very positive. And that was the trigger for me. I was like, something's got to be done about this, because so much time and money goes into developing these drugs. And then it turns out that big pharma that has, they have unlimited resources and knowledge and experience, they still fail in that final stage of clinical testing about 50% of the time. By then, they've invested $1 to $2 billion in 10 to 15 years. Just think about that. All that time and money, and then you fail. Evaporated, gone. So, I mean, it's a business failure, but it's also a big failure for patients, because patients obviously responded in phase 2. So there are a subset of patients that could have benefited from that treatment. Anyway, so that was the point, kind of the tipping point for me. I said, I'm going to change this. I got to change this formula of failure. And when I do it, everybody's going to win. Patients, companies, insurance companies, providers, everybody. So that's kind of where it all started. And then, I said, well, how am I going to do this? I had, did my MBA at Johns Hopkins. I had relationships there. I was a mentor in residence there. And it turned out that Johns Hopkins had a subsidiary called the Applied Physics Lab. And a lot of people don't know what that is, which is kind of surprising, considering how incredible the organization is and how big it is. So the Applied Physics Lab is a subsidiary of Johns Hopkins University. They do a couple billion in revenue, and they have 6,000 engineers and scientists working on a lot of amazing technologies. And it turned out that they had been working on AI in the early days, and they had developed this platform that they had been applying to national defense-related applications, terrorism, cyber, things like that. So anyway, it took me a long time, but I was able to secure a worldwide exclusive license to the platform for drug development applications. So it's coming out of the gates. Our story is very different than almost every other AI company you'll hear about. This is like real blue chip technology, proven in other applications. And so that's how I started Bullfrog. That was the founding technology. And, since then we've continued to make slow but steady progress.
And so I'll say first in your own words then, what is Bullfrog AI?
So Bullfrog AI is a company that, first of all, we use AI to save lives. Ultimately, that's what we're doing, right? We're not about replacing jobs and things like that. It's about saving lives, and we do that by using AI to aid scientists and physicians in their decision making, okay? And our focus is on the two bookends of drug development. The very first step is what you call drug target discovery, okay? That's an area that we focus. What that is like when you take a medication, that medication targets something in your body, a gene, a protein, cell, whatever it is, okay? So a lot of drugs, a significant percentage of drugs fail because the wrong target is picked, okay? And that's a big problem because these companies, are spending a lot of time and money developing these drugs, and then they're like, oh no, we spent all this, these years and $100 million, and we picked the wrong target. So that's an area that our technology really excels. And then we focus on the final stage, which is what we started our conversation on, which is late stage clinical trials, okay? Because that's obviously a pivotal moment, right, for a drug. It's a binary moment. Either you're going to succeed or you're going to fail. And for a biotech company, failing at that stage means game over, because investors have already pumped in a lot of money and waited a long time. big pharma can absorb those failures. They're just this machine, and they continue to make lots of money in what they're doing. But so we focus on drug target discovery and late stage clinical trials, and that's where we've had success recently, and we're very excited about continuing that.
So yeah, as you're talking about kind of your continued success, I know you can't announce all of them, but tell us about kind of some of your partnerships you guys have signed on with.
Yeah, so a big partnership we have is with the Lieber Institute for Brain Development. Lieber is a nonprofit associated with Johns Hopkins Medicine. They have the largest collection of brains, actual complete brains in the world for neuropsychiatric patients. Okay, they have over 5,000 brains. And continues to be a very important partnership for us. Because as you know, in the world of AI, there's two pieces to the equation. One is your technology, and one is data, right? And we hear about data day and night. So in this case, we had exclusive access to all of their brain data. Remember, this is a one-of-a-kind brain repository, so it was a one-of-a-kind data set. And using which we believe is one of the best technologies out there, you combine those two, and we made some amazing discoveries. We basically think we've discovered the genes that drive schizophrenia, bipolar, and depression. Okay, and that's a really big deal. Those are big diseases, big disorders. There's not really very effective drugs out there, and part of the problem is the way these drugs have been developed historically, right? First of all, nobody's had this type of data, okay? So that's always a challenge. And the reason they haven't had this type of data is, unlike developing drugs for any other disease in the body, like typically you can punch biopsy, tissue and study that tissue. You can't do that in the human brain. You'll kill somebody. So it's like the whole industry has been operating with half a deck, right? And relying on animal models. Animal brains are not really a good model for human brains. So there's been these disadvantages, which has caused high failure rates certainly in neuropsych, but broader, like neurodegenerative as well. Like you're not hearing about great Alzheimer's or Parkinson's treatments and things like that. So data is a big challenge. Anyway, so we've made these discoveries, super excited. We're talking to pharma about getting deals done now because, these are really important discoveries. Once you've identified the right target, right, like I said earlier, increases your chances dramatically for being successful. So that's a really key partnership for us and continues to be. And then the other one was, our first real customer on the clinical trial end. This is Alazon Pharmaceuticals. So they are a biotech, a privately held biotech, and they have several late-stage drugs. One of them is a phase 3 stage pancreatic cancer drug. And pancreatic cancer, has a history of, it's a minefield, basically, right? A lot of failures. Prognosis is not good for these patients. It's a very difficult, situation to get into. We worked with them, we analyzed their data, and we made some really exciting discoveries. So exciting, in fact, that they want to do a second contract with us, so repeat customer. And then, they wanted to submit an abstract to ASCO GI, which is a really top tier oncology conference. So we did that. We submitted that with them. It was accepted by ASCO GI. So the results will be presented on January 9th. That's a big day for us. But the frustrating part is, we want to talk about this now. So we've had this information since September, and it's just killing us. We're like, we want to tell the world what we've done here, because it's really important. In any case, that work has definitely opened more doors for us, and kind of got us on the radar, because it's look, the challenge in AI is like real use cases, right? Where you got your hands on data and you actually did something, right? Something that's valuable, and that's what we've done in these two cases, and we'll continue to go from there. The other, obviously we have relationships with Johns Hopkins, but we also have one with Signature Discovery. So we're a very lean company, as you probably know. But we said, hey, we got this great technology, we got all these great solutions. Wouldn't it be great to team up with a company that has a big a global commercial team, so that they can help us sell these solutions? So we're working with this company in the UK. They are plugged in with hundreds and hundreds of biotechs and pharma companies. So they've started selling, some of our capabilities.
So, would love to hear a little bit more about kind of how you chose kind of that big data and AI was going to be kind of the future before it became the buzzword it is now. And then how you've tried to kind of stay away from just being like another wrapper on top of some other person's model, and that you all figured out that having this proprietary data and having your own model kind of is where the actual value is created. Tell me about how that kind of all came to be, because it seems like there's no way that could have all been in the business plan like day one.
Obviously I'm an engineer by training. So, I was studying neural networks, in the 90s. So it's, I knew that the key to solving the problem that I wanted to solve was I'll need a technology that can take lots of data, lots of complicated data, and do things that a human being or even a team of human beings could not do in a reasonable amount of time. So, I guess there was there's some serendipity there, that when I presented that problem to our friends at the Applied Physics Lab, they helped connect the dots and said, hey, this is what you want to do. This is the technology. And then obviously at that time, I knew the reputation of Johns Hopkins, and I learned about the Applied Physics Lab. And when you're starting a company, you're always thinking about differentiators, right? And I said, not many people are going to be able to match this, if anybody, because I know these guys are, top tier. And that's what, and again, it took time, doing a lot of research, a lot of studying. And then even when we signed the license, we did R&D with these guys to transform what was being used for defense to biological data. That took time. Okay. So it wasn't like this, I snapped my fingers and all of a sudden I had this incredible platform. It took, probably, good year at least. Right. And then we've continued to innovate over that time, but just instinctively, I knew that, look, if you're going to have a Me Too technology, you're going to have challenges out there, right? And it's going to be very, very hard to get the attention of customers and be able to separate yourself and be a different, differentiated from the rest of the pack. Did I know that AI was going to explode, like just absolutely explode and take over the entire planet? No, I didn't know that. I had no idea that would happen. But, I started the company 8 years ago. Those are kind of early days. A lot of people didn't even know what AI is when you try to talk to them. But and anyway, things have really taken off over the past few years. But look, we've stuck with this core technology, the core, we call it, the APL code base. That is the core of what we do. It's incredibly powerful and incredibly deep. It's like we keep learning more and more about it. It's like an iceberg, which is exciting for us. And it just, we keep getting, we're just impressed that we still know we have something better than anybody else. We're always watching what's OpenAI, Anthropic, and what's Elon Musk. What are they doing? What are their capabilities? And we have like these weekly checks, and we're like, no, they still can't do what we can do. I'm like, fantastic, but we're not sitting still. Like, we're continuing to innovate. So getting back to your wrapper comment, now fast forward, right, several years, and there's a lot of companies out there that are just taking open source tools, putting their wrapper around it. Hey, here's my platform. Well, we say, hey, good luck, because I think those, that approach is going to get filtered out, right? You have to be doing something novel, right? You have to be pushing the envelope with technology, and you got to be delivering, right? Don't overpromise and underdeliver, and right, prove that you can do certain things, which is what we're doing. Like, we're not promising the world. We're saying, look, we can do A and B, right? And when we've gotten our hands on the data and we've proven we can do it, and we're going to keep doing that, we're going to keep going down those two lanes, and then we'll start maybe expanding out. But that's how you get the markets to have confidence in you, is pick something very specific that you can do well and do it. And then, that's value.
So as we're kind of wrapping up here, I would love to hear a little bit more just about your go-to-market strategy for on the one end of the spectrum, where you're going after like phase 2, phase 3 people. That seems a little bit more straightforward to find those people. But on the other end, how do you go to market? How do you sell to them? How does that all work?
Well, there's a few ways. I mean, obviously, we do our own, online advertising, Google, LinkedIn, and things like that, online marketing. We exhibit at conferences. Just 2 weeks ago, we were at the AI Drug Discovery Conference, and we got a phenomenal response, the best that we've ever had. We had companies, big pharmas, coming up to us and saying, hey, nobody can do what you guys can do. Mm-hmm. And we're like, hey, great. Why don't you do business with us then, right? So that's where we want to get. And then we have our partnership with Signature Discovery, so they're helping with that. But that's really what our go-to-market approach. But I think the best opportunity for us is going to be once we get, and we will get, a deal done with a big pharma, we want to expand inside that pharma. So if we get a deal done for drug target discovery, we know pharma is sitting on lots of data, right, from start to finish. And once we're validated, we're in the door, we're doing whatever it is the partnership is focused on, we then want to help them with other areas of their business, right? Other portfolios, other business units. And we think we can build a very substantial business, taking that approach. And what's nice about big pharma is it's an established market. They believe in AI. They've invested a lot of money in it, and they've done a lot of partnerships. Okay, they have big problems, and they got lots of money. So that's really, I think, that's going to deliver the biggest, results for us, the return for us. And we're getting there. We're having, we're in deep conversations with several big pharmas on for a variety of partnerships.
That's awesome. So as we wrap up here, if people want to learn a little bit more about Bullfrog AI, where should I send my audience?
Just visit bullfrogai.com.
Easy enough.
There's a wealth of information there. You'll see some very interesting webinars. We do webinars every quarter about our technology, and lots of other white papers. So you can learn a lot by visiting our site.
Awesome. Well, we'll be looking forward to January when you can make the big announcement and do the big data reveal. But until then, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Podcast is for informational purposes only and does not provide financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or any offer to buy or sell any securities or to make any investment. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement therefore by NanoCap Podcast or its affiliates. The NanoCap Podcast Express disclaims all liability for any individual's use